Alright, hello everyone, and welcome back to yet another episode of Sonic Adventure 2 Hero Story PB Analyses. As you can see, today I'm going to be taking a look at Vector's Hero Story PB. It has a high 42 RTA and a high 29 IGT. So this is a pretty intermediate to getting towards advanced level run. It's certainly not too bad, but there's no doubt going to be quite a bit that we have to work with. Just going through having a look at this. You can see in the top left, it's always going to be that. At least it reminds you who the run belongs to, but you're going to unfortunately see that every time I need to stop and explain something, but we'll see what we can do. So let's just begin. The audio is also a little bit odd in this video, but again, it's fine. We'll deal with it. So I think it's already using the directional start at the start of Cityscape, which is nice, just to gain a little bit of time. There is an input cam that's on screen that's just not being relayed on my screen here, but I am looking at Vector's input cam to see what he's doing at any given times. I've already watched this Cityscape and there already are some things that I'm going to talk about when we actually get to them. So this right here, this is like the right idea, but the execution was just a little iffy for this. It is the correct route that you're trying to take here by spin dashing down here and trying to turn to the left to try and stay grounded. You just like didn't turn right quite aggressively enough, but it is correct to stay on the floor here instead of going up along the wall. And then you also do the next spin dash correctly as well by making sure that you're on this staircase, because releasing the spin dash on this vertex rather than being on the flat here and then crossing onto the staircase stops you from decelerating quite as quickly, so that this is the correct spot to do the next spin dash from. So if anything, already the only thing to really take note of with the movement is just making sure you're turning correctly, like the angles, and also the spin dash duration. Like, I think what I've seen so far is just a bit more of a case of making sure you're in the right places before releasing the spin dash, but if it turns out that, generally speaking, you could be releasing the spin dashes sooner, then that is a fundamental movement thing to pay attention to. So when you did like the spin dash here as well, I think you just didn't turn left aggressively enough after leaving this vertex at the top here. I'm just going to slow this down quickly. I mean, the cam looks like you, the input cam looks like you turned left quite sharply, but it is very possible to, if I just pull my own game feed up for a second, to just get what looks like a much lower angle there, which I'm hopefully going to try and demonstrate here. So that you can see that when I did the left turn there, I was a lot lower on the ground and had less airtime. It's likely just going to be a case of turning left sooner, I would imagine, but then you also run into the problem of if you turn left too soon, you're going to either hit this wall here or run into this lamppost, which is solid, and you can't go between the lamppost and the wall either. So, it's, you know, I barely got past it there, and I was trying to turn very early, so that is just something to bear in mind in general. Alright. I'll put the speed back to normal now also. So there was a B input here, actually, from the state that Sonic ended up in there, which is a bit odd. I'm going to look at the input again. Yeah, I think you pressed B again before you jumped. So I think for a couple of frames here, you entered a somersault. I'm just going to rewind this and have a look. Yeah, you actually somersault here from for a couple of frames, which is interesting. If this is like meant to be a deliberate strat, then it's an interesting one. This isn't an approach that I've typically seen before. But if you think it gets you through here comfortably, then yeah, I suppose. At this point, you do want to just homing attack to get as much speed as you can going up the staircase, because I think you homing attack after this next jump that you do here. Yeah, so you could have just like done it a little earlier there. As far as this spot here, like where you just jumped here to get in position for the skip, you can just stand to jump slightly earlier than this point, because like if you jumped from here, then you could just take a very straight path and just basically be landing right now, rather than needing to waste the time getting into position here, but it's just a minor thing. And then as far as the skip, I mean, this is just a CE skip with the, yeah, with the pause buffer method, so that's just normal. If you're going to use that, you're going to use it. This is the first place that I wanted to make major observations on, though. I used to use this sort of method for getting onto the rails, and I actually don't really prefer this method anymore because you're having a lot of problems here with trying to just get on it in general. And the big reason this happened in the first place is going to the right after you land on the ground here, because once you end up over here, but like if you try and just jump and homing attack from here, you have more distance to cover towards the rail, which just means that it's easier to miss, because there's a lot more places you can go and a lot more places you can land. And the rail covers a surprisingly small amount of the potential ground you can actually land on. Like, you're basically just guesstimating landing on the rail like this. So what I prefer to do myself, I'm going to actually have to hit CE skip now, so you have to bear with me. Please. Good game. That's what I mean about just landing as soon as possible there also. Yeah, you're gonna have to bear with me till I actually hit CE skip. And I don't have an input cam on, but you'll just have to take my word for what I'm doing. I'm bad at the skip. And like for the purpose of this, I don't really have the option of just playing through the stage normally, because I'd need to be able to demonstrate with bad cam. I'm just bad at this skip, so bear with me. There we go. Alright, so I'm in the same situation as you because I've got bad cam, but what you ideally want to do here is actually hold left on the control stick. So as soon as I unpause, I'm going to just hold left, and you're going to be able to see where it ends me up at. Okay, this is actually an uncommon result. This actually is not what I wanted. Like, most of the time, the vast majority of the time, depending on the way that you hit the skip, holding left will just end you right here. You'll just be standing right here. And then from there, you can pretty much face up with a little bit of left, just do a short jump and homing attack, and you'll get on the rail very easily. Like this. So I do need to make sure I'm on the next rail with speed, because there was an observation I wanted to make about the way that you did the next part as well. I'm also just going to let my cat out quickly, sorry. Apologise. So I'm just going to cut back to your game feed quickly to show the way the rest of the rails went in general. But like, yeah, just waiting for you to get on. So yeah, so this rail switch was fine, but now on these rail turns, you're using like a left and right to moderate your angle changes, and for this specific set of rail turns, this is actually not very helpful. Like, it's less helpful than you might think. You can see that Sonic is having real difficulty staying aligned. What you actually want to do on this specific rail turn is use up and down. Like, on the first turn, you just tap up, 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 and then down, down, down. So I'm gonna try it like again here, please, controller. And you're going to hopefully be able to see that Sonic is going to stay pretty much entirely upright through the rail direction changes, which means that a lot more speed is being conserved. Like, Sonic pretty much stays entirely upright the whole way through there. And then for that next one, you can use right, 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 and then left, left, left. But for that specific rail that we just talked about on your game feed here, you do want to use up and then down instead of left or right. And missing this last rail, I think, was just a matter of... just frame advance this. I think he just jumped a little late. What you can generally do as a cue for when to jump from rail to rail is you can see that there are these wall posters that you go past. So there's this red one, then followed by this blue one, and then this third red one is the last one that you come past. And I typically like to wait until I'm past the third poster. You can see that here you're jumping pretty much in line with it, so jumping slightly early. And the result of that is that with a fairly short jump and trying to go from rail to rail, you just didn't have quite enough distance to make it to this next one. So just delay when you do the last jump a little bit longer by following these wall posters as a visual cue. Like once you're like around here, if we go back a few frames, you'll be able to see, like, yeah, once you're like around here, it's being about at this point on the rail, you should be able to make it across the gap fairly comfortably, as long as you don't just tap A to get the shortest jump possible. Going around those two turns, you just need to do up, 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 and down, down, down. You don't need to do any more up inputs after that. And then, yeah, once you're not on this rail, it's a little tricky. So... yeah, that's always just going to be a bit tricky. I can see the attempt at getting onto the very left side of the barrier here, which is definitely the correct thing to aim for. But as you can see, being too far on the left side of the barrier just gives you a lot of problems. So, although I would try to aim for being on the left, I wouldn't like pay too close attention to it and just try and get like just anywhere in this region. And you can just work on refining it where you're trying to get through the barrier through gradual practice, and you'll eventually like get better and better at it, because sticking to the first hill after this point from being under the left side of the barrier, it only saves like a couple of seconds at most, but you actually lose more than that from the way that you try to get under the barrier here. Okay, so I think you could probably stand to practice the truck section in general and just get a better feel for when the hills are coming, because this charge here, like, this is way too early, and then, yeah, you're already spin dashing and releasing it by the time you crest over the next hill. And the entire point of playing truck section is that you want to be doing the spin dash charges over these hills so that it maximizes the chance that you'll actually stick to the floor. But then using the left method here, so if you stick there, you're pretty much always going to stick there, like, that's fine. Now, I don't know if you're following the same cue that I do here, but, and this worked out. Personally, what I do at this point is, as soon as I see this left ramp, then I unroll. And this is like when you happen to do it, but I don't know if this is what you're visually aiming for, or if this is just a coincidence. But if this wasn't what you're aiming for, then do take note of this, and you can consistently make use of this to make sure that you time this spin dash correctly. Because you can see that when you do this, this is timed exactly right, that spin dash charge then takes you over the next hill, so that's definitely a good approach. And then you just need to be careful here about not drifting too far into the wall with angled input. It's specifically when you drift into the wall with directional input that you have problems with losing your speed there. If you just like flick towards the wall and neutral stick along it, Sonic should actually maintain quite a lot of speed. And then if you're not on the very hard right side of the wall when you take the speed pads, then it just causes this problem here where you miss the goal ring. So it's just a couple of things to try and pay attention to if possible. Right. Okay, so back boxes. So if you're not like really confident at this fight, then there's nothing particularly wrong with doing this. This does look to me for the first hit that you risked going too early. Like, this is about as early as you could have gone, and this actually almost caused you to miss this hit. Because Bigfoot's hitbox is something special, and like the hitbox is pretty much the cockpit here. You can pretty much only rely on reliably hitting the glass cockpit here, and you hit like the very bottom edge of this. I'm actually kind of surprised you didn't miss this hit. So don't be so eager to get this first hit and just let him come towards you a little bit, because you have quite a comfortable amount of time to get back on the box and get ready for the next hits afterwards before he comes too close and you just can't get the hits anymore. Like, at this point, you're still waiting. So, yeah, there's no real value in going as early as possible because you got on the box and you're still waiting for him to actually get in range to attack. So just take your time on this boss if you're going to use this back box strat. There's nothing wrong with taking your time, and it will actually make the fight more consistent. Getting a 25 with that strat is totally respectable, though. Alright, so let's see what happens in Wild Canyon.
Oh, hello.
Okay, so beginning room, yeah, nice. Good check. Okay, so something to note about just piece distribution. You were never going to get this piece. Because, well, with any of these pieces, the one that's under here is the piece 1. This is the one that pings red. And then these two can be the piece 2. But if you already had beginning room right above you, there's no way you're going to have any of these pieces, because the piece distribution just doesn't allow that. So by the same token, if you had this one or this one from doing the camera check, you also wouldn't have beginning room, if that makes sense. So if you have one piece in this area, you can pretty much just forego all of the other 3 piece checks. There's no point in performing them, because you're just not going to have the piece. But getting beginning room was quite nice. Swirl Tile Pyramid is, yep, on the other side. Nice. So, one thing that you should try and bear in mind when you're doing Wild Canyon in a story run is that you do not have the shovel claws. And so, for moving towards this area, this is kind of a weird habit to get into, because like I say, this is the only time you're probably going to be playing Knuckles without the shovel claws. But you should try and remember to make use of the fact that you can drill dive onto the ground. So let's pretend that I'm going for the same piece that you did have just there. I have the shovel claws here, so this causes me to dig into the ground, but in a story run that doesn't happen. So you can just drill dive onto the ground and then punch to accelerate and get moving immediately. And you should be making use of this as much as you can in Wild Canyon. Just drill diving onto the ground and punching to gain max acceleration. Okay, this is a good piece set. This is a really good piece set. And, okay, so similarly for radar ranges here, something that you can just remember with the radar ranges for this piece in particular. Once you go back down to the bottom like this, so you're on this side, and you're between, like, the corner here and then off the bottom of the screen, it's the next corner. Since the radar is only green here, you're not going to have either of the 2 rocks that are close to you. So once you turn around this way, it's not going to be this one, and it's not going to be this one over here. It's going to be one of these 2. Because of the radar being green where you were. Like, if the radar was yellow at where you were, then it's probably either going to be one of these 2. But you can see that it is the one in the far corner. Just the way the ranges often work out. Sticking around to grab it like that, though, was the correct choice, but if you try and do that, there'll be a lot of times where you actually accidentally end up being too low and it doesn't quite work out the way you want. Something to be aware of. Like, riding the wind tunnel to get a little bit more height there is very difficult, since it's quite easy to just completely come out the wind tunnel again. And I have nothing to say about Eggman 1, because Eggman 1 is just Eggman 1. It's pretty much always the same. Barring some variation depending on what his AI does, which you don't have full control over. So, to start off with Prison Lane here, just the very start of Prison Lane, I would personally recommend just trying to get these lock-ons without moving too much, for the reason that then once the gate starts opening, you can then have more time to just run towards the gate. So if you can get all 3 lock-ons like this, basically in the starting position, then you can just be at full running speed by the time the gate opens. Whereas what happened to you is that you moved forward and you were already at the gate, and now you need to wait for it to open, and now you need to build speed. And that's the sort of optimization that's going to apply virtually everywhere for Tails. I think this was actually late on this gate open as well. Yeah, that was a little late. I think you're actually staggering your inputs a little here to make sure you won't go too fast. I'm going to take a look at the input cam here. Yeah, you actually let go of the control stick slightly. If you are moving in the right direction, this should like never be a problem. I'm just going to start again, and once I'm past the first gate, I should just be able to hold up fire, just spam fire, and I will hit the enemy before I get anywhere near the gate. Yeah, like this gate should always be open by the time you reach it, if you are just aiming accurately. So there's no need to slow down there. As long as, like I say, if your shot's been placed accurately. So one thing I've mentioned as well in previous analyses on this specific gate is that there is definitely nothing wrong. In fact, it's better to wait around here a little longer than you think you need to, so the gate can start opening, and you don't need to either use multiple jumps or lots of ground turning to get through this, because like that jump in particular didn't do anything because you didn't turn with it, and then you actually do all of your ground cornering here, and this cuts your speed down quite a bit. Like, just getting through that gate was actually quite slow, whereas in comparison you can just try and do something like this. Please let me just progress. Make sure to try and do cornering in situations like that as well. So if you wait there and then just jump around, well, I've mistimed it there, but you can see the idea here is just wait for the door to be opening and then just try and do something like this. Because what happened to you specifically was like jumping there and then doing a turn like that, and it's just like, it's really not what you want. I'm going to restart from the stage and just try and do this all in one go. Nice camera. Something like that. You can see the idea there. And like, it looks very minor, but these are the sorts of ideas that really start stacking up quite a bit of time save over the course of a whole stage. Like, individually, none of these really save too much time, but it's about how it all comes together over the course of a full stage. You can try and also start these lock-ons a bit earlier than you did. Like, this beetle in particular is really weird, but you can actually, at this point, pretty much already be locked onto it. So, like, I'm actually just going to play a bit with the lock-on ranges here. So you can see that I've got both the lock-ons here. I'm just not releasing it because I want to leave them alive. So I've got a lock-on. So which lock-on have I got there? So it is that enemy that I've got, because, you know, I'm closer to it. So obviously the sooner that you destroy those enemies, the sooner that next gate is going to open. Just something to bear in mind. So for this box break here, it's pretty much just a case of committing to whichever side you're going to go to, because you kind of hit this dead in the middle and this was never going to work. Yeah, like, you broke one of these boxes, so basically at this point, if you'd been on the very left side, this would have worked. But since you're in the middle and you're very unlikely to get both of the boxes in one shot, like, this is very rarely going to work. So I would just get used to either being on the left side or on the right side. I personally go for the left side as well myself, so it just looks something like this. Just like that. Like, it's a wider turn, and some runners do prefer to opt for the right side for that reason. I personally find it quite a bit easier to do it like that, but the important thing is just that you get through there without slowing down, and that virtually requires you to just pick a side and stick with it. Okay, that wasn't a bad section though. Alright, so the big thing that you want to do here is destroying the beetle that comes along here. Because like, a lot of people have this problem that they can't get through here fast enough before this guy comes along and fires the shot. This shot almost doesn't matter as long as you destroy this guy though, because it's one of the weird quirks of this game that when you destroy an enemy that fires shots, then the game despawns the shot along with the enemy. So if I just pull this back. So pay attention to the shot that the enemy fires here. Notice how it just disappears. Like, all I targeted was the enemy. I didn't target the shot. But as soon as the enemy is destroyed, then the shot just disappears and it doesn't hit me. So as long as you're quick about targeting that enemy, then that should never be a problem. Okay, trying to use like the wall method there, but it's a bit tricky. I'm not particularly good at it either, so I just don't go for it. So let's have a look at how you got onto the elevator here. So you can aim to be like slightly faster on the elevator by just trying to land right as you get here, because this elevator doesn't start moving until you land. So it's on like this frame pretty much that the elevator is starting to move. So what you can do is just try and pay attention to landing as soon as possible, either through getting the shortest jump possible or jumping slightly sooner. Just something like that. Like, again, it's a very minor time save, but it is there, and it's there for free. Okay. So you actually lost your speed here, and I want to have a look at why. I think you just turned quite aggressively before jumping, but this just looks a little uncharacteristic. That it looked like you lost a lot of speed on this turn. I don't know, like it doesn't. You're certainly not turning very aggressively here. It's kind of weird. I'm not entirely sure what happened here, but I mean, it doesn't help that you also hit that black box on the right edge there, I suppose. Because of potentially getting slowed down there, I like to just try and jump around that corner. It's not dreadfully important, it's just something I prefer to do. Okay, so I'm probably going to have something to mention here. Yeah, alright. So, something that you should learn to pay attention to, I'm actually going to boost the volume a lot on your run here, is you want to listen for when the boxes break. Like, you hear that that breaking sound? That means that the boxes over here are now gone, and now once you got around the corner here, you did a short hop expecting the boxes to be there. And that's fine if the boxes are there, but obviously, since you've destroyed them, this doesn't work. And this is actually, in this case, the worst thing you can do, because if you have the correct, or in this case, the incorrect timing, it is actually possible to jump through this gap. Like, you risk taking a death here. Like, that looked pretty close to taking a death to me. I've seen people die there before. So what you should do, like I say, is when you're shooting those enemies from before, please, at this spot, you want to use your ears just as much as your eyes and listen for the box breaking sound. If you don't hear it, then I also like to do what you did there, which is try and short up onto the boxes. But if you hear the boxes break, then you do just need to be prepared for, okay, once I get around the corner, I'm going to need to do one large hop rather than two short hops. It's just something that you need to be aware of. As for how you can do this section, I find that it's typically pretty safe to, first of all, be on the left side here, just so you have a straighter path. And then, as soon as you see this enemy, like once the camera lets you get a clear view, you can pretty much just start going. And once you get on top of here, you can just do a short hop to avoid this shot that he fires. So I'm going to pull up my feed and give a demonstration of all this. Nice, just don't give me the enemy that's through here. Okay, so the boxes are there. Nice turn, as in bad turn, so I'm on the left. and you can go and you can go. And that's a pretty elementary section. Okay. You can definitely get by doing just a short hop here. To target like this enemy near the ceiling, all you really need to do is do a jump at pretty much this shadow on the floor. So if you like wait a little longer and pretty much just jump when you're at this shadow, it doesn't even need to be a full jump. You can just do a short hop and you pretty much will hit this enemy here. I'm gonna play it again. I also like to jump here just to try and again maintain momentum. See how we get the enemy there with just a short hop? So you will maintain a bit more speed from having less air time and more ground time. That's the cardinal rule with Tails. The more time you can spend on the ground, the better. And notice as well how you had problems here with getting on top of the gate. You almost didn't make this, and part of the reason is that you're going for the ×4 lock-on. If you mash and just start releasing the lock-ons sooner, so that you destroy all the enemies sooner, then the gate will start descending sooner. And the problem that you had here is that it started like dropping so late that it was only really because of the awkward collision that you even made that jump. By all accounts, you probably shouldn't have made that, because the gate was just too high. Like, I'm very surprised you made that personally. Nice pivot turn. So there's just quite a bit of a general room for improvement with little strat applications there and just paying attention to fundamental movement things. Yeah. Oh, I think this was a Vertex shenanigan here. Yeah, you just got Vertexed here, which is strange. This was partly caused, though, by the fact that you changed direction quite aggressively here. Like, starting from here and then taking this route here, I'm not entirely sure why you did this. You definitely should start this section by just going in a straight line, just holding straight up. Like, regardless of where you actually take the zipper, you can just hold straight up and it will be fairly reliable here. Just like this. Ah, I didn't make it. It's not really important. And yeah, okay, so rather than taking the spring, you do want to pay attention to just jumping as I did there. The only reason I didn't make it when I demonstrated just there is because I didn't do a full jump. So like, I'll demonstrate this again. As long as you just hold a full jump, you'll get through there fairly reliably. So I think you spin dash jumped here from this midway point. I'm going to listen. Yeah, you don't need to do a spin dash jump here. You can either just let the spin dash go as long as your angle is good, or you can do a spin dash hover. So I'm going to just try letting the spin dash go here. Might not make it, but we'll see. Yeah, like you can just let the spin dash roll without any other inputs and you will make it across there. And a spin dash hover just makes it increasingly easier. Can I make it back? Yeah, nah, probably not. Whatever. Either way. If you don't know what a spin dash hover is, then please do let me know. Okay, so at this point you actually did wait quite a long time before releasing the pulley. Like, you can pretty much just be jumped off the pulley at this point, but then you just wait quite a bit of extra time. And the amount of extra time that you wait doesn't actually particularly help here, because of the way that, like, okay, so I'm saying you can pretty much be jumped off at this point. So if you look at, like, where my mouse cursor is pointing, pretty much the join between the two boxes. So you waited longer, and the pulley is going up further, but then it reaches the top, and it bounces back down, and you actually jumped off at pretty much the same spot. So it didn't actually help to wait any longer. It pretty much results in the same thing, only it lost a little bit of time. Strangely enough. Alright, so when going along the runway here, you pretty much just want to pick a side to go along. If you're going to go along the left side, as you do here, then just take the left speed pad. And if you're going to stick to the right side, which is a little faster, then stick with the right speed pad. As it is, you can do like a kind of weird hybrid thing here where I think you hit the right speed pad, but then you just turn really aggressively left, and this is just more difficult to manage and more difficult to play. But the idea behind going on the right-hand path is that you just use more fundamental spin dash chaining. Oh, I already destroyed the beetle there. Yeah, forgot about that. Alright, I'll just play through it again. Yeah, I completely forgot that I already destroyed that beetle. Hello. I don't have the light shoes. Yeah. Okay, so I can actually demonstrate what I was talking about the light shoes as well, because I actually need to go and get them. Interesting. I was wondering why that didn't work. I promise I know what I'm doing. Like, you see how early I jump off there and it still works perfectly fine? So I like to go along the right side, so just holding straight up, just chain, go to the right a bit, then go to the left a bit, and it works quite reliably. If you want to go on the left side, it's fine. It's a bit pointless to combine both of them, because it just increases the range of movement required, and it just makes it more difficult to do. And I think you just messed up the spin dash chain there, which caused the somersault. Excuse me. Those somersault barriers can be quite kooky, yeah, so just trying to make sure you get under them, although it can be easier said than done. Alright, so for this particular jump, what you want to do first of all is try and get a good exit from this pulley, and by that I mean trying to land as soon as possible. Like at this point, again, you can already have jumped and homing attack cancelled to just land right here, ideally, and be running with a lot of speed. And then the more speed you have here, the closer you're going to be to this edge when you do the spin dash, which is what you want here. Because you're like halfway through here, so you've got a lot of extra distance to make up here. And even though you had quite a full spin dash there, you are really struggling to make the distance here. Because what you'd like to ideally do here is use a homing attack through the loop to get loop speed. But that's just not an option here. In fact, it's actually not safe at all, and it could cause you to take a death. So, yeah, you're kind of just making do here. So even there, I barely had enough distance there. And I was quite a bit closer. So ideally, you want to be like somewhere around here, like where the floor markings are, if you can. And then just wait until you're through the loop before doing homing attack. Not a homing attack cancel. That is an important distinction to make. Loop speed tricks generally don't work with homing attack cancels. You just want to do a homing attack. And you do want to make sure you are through the loop before you do that as well, like I said. Because it can generally cause a lot of problems if you do it before you break through the loop. So I survived there, but that wasn't really guaranteed. You can run into some weird issues where sometimes it can just launch you through the bottom of the loop and kill you. I'm kind of getting lucky here. I would not recommend what I'm doing here, and instead make sure you do it like this, where you make sure you're through the loop first. And that will just minimize any risk from doing that. So as long as you... Actually, that was a lot of airtime, and I'm not entirely sure what happened there. I'm gonna have another look. Oh, okay, you just spin dash through it and then you release the spin dash on the slope. Yeah, try not to do that. You didn't take the left speed pad, which is the correct thing to do, but then you got a lot of airtime anyway from the way you took this section. If you just like roll through these speed pads and then jump and homing attack, like the lower you can get it, the better. So like ideally you'll want it to be like something like this. Even that's quite high, but you can see the idea, like you can see what I'm going for. I'm going to try like from the top of this hill, just so that my movement is like hopefully equal. I hate this game sometimes. Just like something like that. Anyway. This makes, yeah, charging there a little awkward. That was a nice turn though. That is better than a lot of people do the turns, and that is definitely the correct way to take that section without homing attacking the beetles, so that's nice. Homing attacking the beetles just causes a lot of problems that you don't need to put up with. I can see that you charged the spin dash a very long time there, but if that was just for the sake of making sure you were in the right position and you weren't going to miss that, then that's fine. I'm not going to argue against that too much. Alright, so let's see what happens here. Yeah, doing a loop skip here, it's not inherently risky, but these aren't trivial either. So I'm going to take a quick look. That was a bad platform for me, but whatever. Because what I typically like to do with the rocket platform skip now is take the first set of speed pads, jump over the second set of speed pads, and then do a slope jump off the just the sloped part of the loop, for lack of a better term. The only problem is the guardrail on the right hand side, which can block you. So like I just slipped around the guardrail there, but this is what I typically like to do for this skip now, and you should land fairly comfortably as long as you don't get trapped. If you do get trapped on the guardrail, then like you can semi-bail out and then just take the same zipper as normal, but it just gets a bit unnecessarily awkward. Oh yeah, I didn't have my footage on. Fuck. I can just do the rocket platform again. See, if you people knew how to put game feeds on an actual full screen layout, then I wouldn't need to use multiple scenes, I could just overlay it. Either way. It's like something like that. You do need to turn a little more right than you think to avoid that guardrail, which means then you need to turn more to the left as well, but I think that's one of the most manageable ways that I've attempted to do that skip before. Oops, a little too far. Okay, so Shadow's just kind of being Shadow. I'm not a fan of how you are holding the jump for a long time before homing attacking. What you should actually be trying to do is exploit how you can basically do whatever you want directly after dealing damage to him. Let me just slow the footage down and show you what I mean. So whenever you deal damage to Shadow, then he recoils in the air. So I'm going to demonstrate like on this hit 2 here. So after you deal damage here, he recoils in the air. He's not going to do anything whilst he is recoiling in the air like this. So he doesn't even get to act until he's like landed on the ground like this. So like now he can decide to do actions. By now you could already have jumped and homing attacked. Like you can do a short hop followed by an immediate homing attack cancel. And you can very quickly get away from him and get set up for the next hit without risking causing a jump from him. Because like I say, if you do it quickly enough, then he doesn't have time to react to it. So I'm generally not a fan of holding these jumps for very long, as is being demonstrated here, because then, now that he was grounded, doing that homing attack, that is what causes him to jump here. So if you do that as soon as possible, rather than waiting until he's recovered, then you can do pretty much whatever you want and he won't react to it. And it just makes the fight a lot more manageable. It's a toss-up between people whether they want to go for the light dash here or not. I actually prefer to not go for the light dash. So I like the start of my Green Forests to just be like this instead, albeit sometimes this can cause weird shenanigans with the hills as well. It can happen with the light dash as well though, so yeah, like that. There's no reason that can't happen with the light dash either though, so it's just mileage varies. Yeah, just being in the wrong spot there a little bit. Just making sure you're in ball form throughout that whole area is what's most important there.
3 seconds behind what I ought to be at.
So I'm not sure if you were trying to exploit Spin Dash storage here, because like you hold this for quite a long time, and you're quite close to the spring by the time you unroll from this. Yeah, in that case you can just afford to do it quite a bit sooner. Like this just takes quite a bit of practice to get used to the timing of, but you can get quite a bit of mileage out of this. Oh, nice. I didn't even get the checkpoint there either, I don't think. Green Forest is a quirky stage. Straight as an arrow movement. Okay, so. And you'll notice that with that second spin dash, I like to just release it as soon as possible anyway, for the simple fact that... Please fuck off, dude. For the simple fact that when you release this spin dash around here, in ball form, you are pretty much going to start decelerating as soon as you release it. Like, as soon as you just start going, then the physics are going to apply, which means when you're going along this uphill, you start slowing down. Whereas if you just unroll immediately, you'll actually conserve more speed. And going back down the other side of the hill is not really going to make a big difference to the amount of speed you have like in the ball form here, I wouldn't say. Plus, as well, like I'm saying, the fact that if you hold it throughout this downhill, then you're also leaving it quite late to actually get a good spin dash storage here. So, yeah, start around here. And this is going to be instant when I land. Pretty much. Like, it's hard really to judge when I did it there, but yeah, you're just going to have to take my word for it. Anyway, yeah. Yeah, that hill. I try and like stagger myself over that hill, like take a bit of a zigzag movement. Like you just held straight up over that hill, and that makes it pretty much, that's pretty much the most dangerous way you can take that. If there's any spot where you want to intentionally ruin your movement and wiggle around a lot, it really doesn't hurt to do it there, just to try and make sure that you're going to stick to the floor. Because it wastes a lot more time to not stick to the floor there. So if you are going to start trying to do this loop skip, as I just did in my footage, I'll scale my game back a bit. I'm going to need to take a death now. I can just super bounce out here actually. Yeah. So the couple of important things to note with the mini loop skip are that you want to jump over the speed pads directly before it. So you want to jump over those speed pads so that you're grounded here. You will generally hit a loop speed trigger around here, at which point you want to be like charging the spin dash. So something around here. And then you need to be holding rightwards enough on the control stick so that you don't get caught on the inside of the loop. Because if I just hold straight up on the control stick, then it's just that, you know, travel angle and problems. So you pretty much want to be holding upright on the control stick to be able to safely get out here. And then as long as you wait until the peak of the jump and homing attack cancel, you should comfortably have enough distance to make that. Alright, so if you're not going to go for the light dash into the mini wall run, I'm not sure if that's what you were trying to do here. It looks like you just wanted to spin dash. I don't know, maybe you were trying to do the light dash. I can't exactly tell. But I just prefer to do the spin dash method myself, which you can just do, like, as soon as you've landed here. And hopefully, like, if you do it early enough, it's going to be before the enemies come down, so you don't necessarily have to weave in and out of them either, and you can just take a fairly straight path towards the speed pad. Same problem here again with these hill vertexes. You really just want to make sure you're past this hill vertex before you do a spin dash. Yeah, like, I wouldn't charge the spin dash there. So, I can just show exactly what I do in all of my runs here. Which is light dash, and then charge here. It's just a lot safer, and a lot more consistent. It also means as well, if you like do that spin dash early, you pretty much can't go for the neutral vertex in the middle of the half pipe as you do at the start of the stage, which is like bleh if you don't have the neutral vertex. Top spring, nice. Okay, avoiding the beetle is slightly faster, but do make sure that you're actually going to hit that. Nice, that is a good setup. If you can get the neutral light dash there, that is a good setup for getting the good light dash going up the tree. I like that. Like, this uphill section is actually pretty good. Alright, if you're going to do bungee skip like this, the only observation I would make here is I would try and go a bit more to the left than you think you need to. Because there is an invisible wall on the right, which I think you either came extremely close to or you were against for a while, and it gave you a bit more difficulty than you should have. Now I'm breaking my own rules by not going for the light dash there, because I'm actually not too good at it, but whatever. Like, if you can consistently hit that neutral light dash without hitting it angled, then it will set you up very consistently for that next light dash. So something that I see a lot of people talking about for doing this this spin dash jump here is to aim for this red flower here, which I don't necessarily disagree with. It will certainly take you leftwards enough to have a good angle. Like, yeah. And an important detail to have here is, again, I don't know if you were already doing this. I'll go back to your input cam for a second. Okay, you are using L to reset the camera. That's a good detail. That's something that more people should be doing here. That as soon as the camera locks, at this point you just tap L and it follows you immediately. That's something that more people should be taking advantage of. Okay, so this is the right idea. You just had too high of an angle here. Like, the position that you're doing this from is, in the first place, a little bit awkward. You ideally want to be a little bit more forward if you can. And then there's, like, a little... You're angling a little too far right on the control stick to be able to get a good angle here. This is, like, an awkward one, though. Yeah, it's, like, ideally doing it from somewhere like this if you can. And then try and hold more forward than right. And you should be able to get that sort of angle where you can just do another homing attack through that loop to get loop speed. But if you can tell that, like in your example, that you're just not going to have the distance, then bailing out with a homing attack cancel is the right thing to do, as you did. Like, this, in that situation, was the right play. Oh, yeah, and then rails. So then, yeah, you have the two ways that you can take this corner. Either using the rail like this, or just manually turning the loop. I actually just prefer to stay on the ground here, Nice camera there, dude. Holy shit. I've got a fucking weird camera mode and I can't do it. I'm just gonna respawn here anyway. Yeah, so I like to just go around the floor there. It's actually slightly faster to do that if you can manage that angle effectively also, so I don't think there's any harm in doing that. Excuse me.
Yeah, this ain't great.
So if you can manage this, then a small optimization that you can do here, and it is easier in new game than in practice as well, is to just do a spin dash once you land here. Like, so I'm about to land here, and I'm going to run in this direction, do a very short hop to hopefully get on this platform as soon as possible. And so once I'm in the air here, like once I tap A, I'm just going to start holding B, which means that as soon as I land here, I just charge a spin dash, and then you just spin dash towards the spring and do the same jump and homing attack towards it as normal. But because you spin dash, it's slightly faster. And by slightly faster, I mean it's like a couple of tenths of a second faster. But if you can pull it off, then it is just a minor optimization that's there. Oops. Messed up my inputs there a bit. I'll just start one more time from the checkpoint. I started out using B for some reason. For my own pause. Ugh. Bad, bad, bad. I've got the bounce. Alright, this is going to be a problem. Yeah, okay. I actually had to actually manually time when to start holding the B button there because I have the bounce bracelet, but it works. So, whatever. And that's Green Forest. Alright, Pumpkin Hell. Okay, so nice hint storage. Okay, yeah, just be sure that you actually know where all the pieces exactly are. And, okay, this is a... I think this is a mistake that people commonly make. This is a, like, hint routing choice that I see a lot of people make. I think this is a mistake. So let's simulate... Let's just make a simulation quickly. So, I've got 3 metal barrels, so we'll go over here. I'm getting the piece like around 12, and let's just go down here for the hint. And now let's assume that I've got Pumpkin Triangle. So I'm getting it like there around 27.5. But with a different hint route, I think it will end up being slightly faster. So again, let's just go for 3 metal barrels. So if you instead go for this hint, I think this is just slightly more direct. For a lot of piece progressions. It's like, mileage varies. That was looked a little slower there, but obviously I didn't play it like exactly the same way. But I do believe that in general, it's preferable to go for the hint that I went for. Like this one here. Simply by virtue of the fact that like you never stop moving, really. Like if you go straight from here, there's like a very minimal amount of time spent just climbing there. But I think it's better than just coming all the way down, stopping here, and then needing to start moving again. I think it's just a little more intuitive in general. And I think there have been a lot of piece sets where Tommy's actually agreed with me on going for that hint rather than the one at the base of Church Mountain. So the best Knuckles player agrees that's often the better thing to do. As far as which hint you want to be going for here, like, yeah, this is definitely not the best hint to go for from here. So let's assume I had Ghost Train Station. Wait, do I? Okay, I've already got 3 hints, whatever. So I'm just going to Go over here. Because basically I won't be able to get a hint afterwards. So, got that. You should instead go around here and just get this hint here. Like, that's quite easily accessible from there. And as far as the last piece, I mean, I've already seen this Pumpkin Hill, so one thing I should bring up just for this piece is this is just not going for the correct piece. You've got piece 3, a place you can hear the horn. This is actually a unique hint text, because what you did is you went towards Church Mountain, which is a place where you can hear the horn. If the hint text contains the word where, then it's either at Church Mountain or at Pumpkin Mountain. But if it doesn't contain it and it just says a place you can hear the horn, it's always at Ghost Train, over here. So that's something you should try and bear in mind. Like, at this point, you should have already known where you were going to. And at this point, you should have already reached the piece. But now, you're still looking, and now you're going in the wrong direction. And only now are you starting to go towards the piece. So, like, that was like 15 seconds just from not knowing... Oh, that was honestly about 15 seconds just from not knowing which piece that was. Unfortunately. But those are the sorts of mistakes in Knuckles that can really rack up time. Pumpkin Hill is like my least favourite Knuckles stage for that exact reason. That it has the highest ratio of pieces that either share the same hint text or they share very similar hint text. And you have to spend half your time just interpreting the hint that you have just to make sure you're going to the right place. I really don't like Pumpkin Hill. But you will save a lot of time in general in Pumpkin Hill if you just make sure you know exactly which piece it is you have at all times. Okay, the movement here is a little wonky, but it's just something you can practice in general. I'm expecting there's going to be more important things for me to talk about than movement. Specifically, the route that you took towards the upgrade here. Because of like how much you struggled on the left side, I actually really don't like the left side for getting towards the upgrade here at all. So what I actually recommend is just going on the right side. And if you can get smooth movement while you're at it, there's nothing wrong with that. So just make sure that police car's out of the way in the enemy, and then I just like to go on the right side here. It's a little longer, but you can see that I've got like a 22, like a mid-22 checkpoint here, whereas in your game feed, you reach the upgrade at like 24. So making sure you get towards the upgrade without stopping is a lot more important than taking the most direct path possible. And the bombs that the plane drops are more difficult to avoid on the left-hand side as well. It looks like you're using about the correct amount of hint delay time, though. Okay, alright, this was just slightly early. I can, like... The hover jump was quite good, but you just did it a little bit early, and if you want a reliable cue to follow here, just wait until you can visually see that this weight is rising off the floor. Because, like, you paused right as this started rising, which means there's no way you reacted to visually seeing it, like, you just timed it like this. But if you wait until you can see it rising, you'll naturally end up being a little bit closer, and that sets you up for being in a more convenient spot to get it. So I can show you exactly what I mean here. Shit. Alright. So I'm not going to pause until I can see the hint rising. Wait. And you get up fairly reliably, like that. It's all about the position that you do it from. So you just did it slightly early. Like, the height was fine. You had enough height there. You just weren't close enough when you did it. And it goes back to, again, your ground speed is higher than your airspeed. So because you spent more time in the air going towards it, you lost a little bit too much speed and you just didn't make it. Whereas if you'd had a bit more ground speed before that, you would have easily made that.
Man, this game cheats.
Alright, I disagree with doing like what you did just here. Like, jumping this corner. The only time this is worth it is if you're going to land on this side platform and then do another hover jump from here to get straight over the cages. If you're not going to do this, then this is just not worth it. For the sole reason that I'm just going to have to play up to this section of the stage now. I'll do the 360 no-scope while I'm here as well. Oh, I missed. So, there is nothing wrong with just face tanking into the car. It barely slows you down. Like, you can see that it basically imperceptibly alters your momentum there. There's no reason that you can't be shooting as you go down there to try and move the car out of the way. At the same time, like in runs, I typically do something like this. Like, I try and shoot the car out of the way like that, and then hover jump over like that. But what you ended up doing was just, like, jumping over here, which means you're slowing down here, and when you do the cage skip like this, the more relevant factor is that when you do the cage skip already against the cages like this, then you are starting from a stationary start. Like, if I do it like this, I get over, and now I'm accelerating again. Whereas if you do it from further away with a good hover jump, then you're already at full speed by the time you get over the cages. And if you're trying to meet cycles, you just want to have as much speed as possible. So I would just, personally, either run into the car or try and shoot it out of the way, and then just do a hover jump from some distance away from the cages. That is my decree. I personally prefer to go around the right-hand side here instead of the left-hand side, for the simple fact that it ends you up closer to where you need to be afterwards. So I think that's just slightly preferable, personally. You will struggle to meet Zero Cycle, even with the weight hop. You will struggle to meet Zero Cycle if you take this long to break the box and get the weight moving, which is just another reason why I prefer to take the right-hand side, because it makes destroying this box a little easier. But even if you don't do it like that, there is quite a reliable backup that I like to use. So first of all, I'm going to try to do the ideal way. No, so I missed it. So at this point, you can just be like this. If I unpause and fire now, I should break the box. Yeah, just. Let's do that again, just in one clean attempt, and I'm only going to do the backup this time. Basically, you just get under the weight, immediately pivot turn away, and then if you immediately just turn to the jump, turn to the right and jump, turn to the jump and right. Yeah, if you just turn to the right and jump, then you should be lined up exactly in the right spot to break the box, just from facing rightwards. So I'm just going to do that backup now. Nice. But you can see that I am lined up with it. So let's do it without the weight falling on me, because I did go like too far into the weight as well. That was actually my fault. It's just a shame I can't really use save states for this because I need the box to be there, which the save state tool will not bring the box back. Whoa, Tails, thank you. He's a strange one. Something like that. And I imagine I'll have something to say about how you actually take the weight elevator here as well. Yeah, so this is unfortunately just about the most inefficient way to take the weight elevator. There's several things at play here. Again, if you're trying to meet cycles, you need to be taking this section as fast as you can, which means you need to be jumping as early as possible and you need to have as much speed as possible. That is achieved in a couple of different ways. One thing that you can be doing is, first of all, starting on the right spot of this weight elevator. Like, you go like right to the end here. This is actually the worst place to start from because, again, you're pretty much starting from a stationary jump. Like, when you hover jump here, you're going to have no speed and you'll only start accelerating when you're in the air. That's a terrible position to be in because it also means that you need to wait until you're higher up, because you'll have more distance to cover. Like, the jump will take longer. So this just slows you down, A, because you need to start later, and B, you're going to be slower as you're doing it. What you instead want to do is be at the very back of it. If I pull up my game feed. Like, I'm not sure if you paid attention to how I was doing it just there, but I waited at, like, this point of the, at this point of the wait. And then when the camera started shifting in a particular manner, I just run to the end, and as soon as I reach the end, I just do a hover jump. So I'm going to do this again one more time, and this time the thing to pay attention to is how I get off the wait. Specifically, my cue for when I should start running is based on a weird little camera change that happens. It's only a very minor camera change, but it is there. Alright, so just pay attention to how I get off the wait here, and clip it if you need to refer to later. So go, and jump. And you have just enough height to get that, and I'm moving at max speed. So, like, it's a lot faster than what was going on just there. And I want to say, if you take the exit off the wait elevator, like the way that you do here, then I want to say you probably will never make zero cycle. You need to do it faster, like the way that I demonstrated there, or you just won't have enough time to get zero cycle. So going for the wait hop at the start, it's like, if you're not going to pull the rest of the stage together and make up the time necessary to get the cycle, it doesn't really do anything to even go for the wait hop there. Because this is actually second cycle that you're getting here. Like, this isn't even first cycle, this is second cycle. You should avoid shooting here altogether. That is one thing that I will definitely say here as well. Shit, don't exit. Like, once you break through here, I'm just gonna keep my hand entirely off the B button, off any button, really. And you can see there's no problem, nothing interrupts me. Whereas if I do that again and I start firing like a madman, I'm going to have problems with the jet coming along and dropping bombs on me. Like, it's firing in this spot that directly causes that jet to come along. And as you saw with the bomb robot on the left as well, as long as you are just moving, you don't even need to shoot, the bombs won't follow you. It's not a danger. So just one more time without firing. Like, as long as you don't actually touch the bombs, just keep going. And they actually just don't have time to follow you. So that is zero risk, and it's quite a bit safer. Okay, so one thing I do need to mention here is that the way that you got through both of these sets of boxes, the first set here, this was like correct, hugging the wall. The second set, this is basically luck, the fact that you got through here without bonking. There is a particular method that you want to use for getting through the second set of boxes in a clean fashion. First of all, I'm going to need to just clear the enemies out of the way. Yeah, you guys fuck off. And this car, fuck off, please. Look at this car, it's just immortal, it's amazing. I don't understand. How do I actually kill this thing? There we go. Alright. So as I mentioned, like with this first set, you can just hug the wall and it should work. Like that. But it is pretty much random doing it with this second set. So I got through that time. Didn't get through that time. And I had weird collision that time. You can see that there's varying results that you can get. And like I say, this is effectively random if you hug the wall. What you should instead do is, like I say, you can hug the wall here. And then as soon as Tails is through here, you can start just going up like this. And then you can turn towards the wall here. And then take more of an angle towards the wall like this. and you will actually get through very reliably. Like if you go a little bit towards the center and then just dip into the wall like that, you'll make it through very easily, as long as you get the angle correct. Like that. So I didn't dip enough there. Like, I didn't go towards the center of the screen enough that time. But that time, I do it, and I get through very easily. One more time. Nice collision there. But I got through the second one. So, like, I actually got stopped on the first one, which you should... A lot of people say is the free one, but then I did the execution for the second one, and I got through there, no problem. Yeah, these cars kind of just suck. There's no real reason at this point to not stop firing. Like, at this point, you should be angling so that you're shooting towards the yellow car. Because you can destroy the yellow car relatively easily. Like, there's nothing you gain from not shooting here, and if you destroy the yellow car, then you get a tighter path going around this corner, so I just shoot the entire way through here. Yeah, just... The only place you want to arguably not shoot like a madman is when those enemies drop down, because you want to avoid punching them. But I'm just hopefully still going to be able to demonstrate here. Like, it just doesn't hurt anything, and it doesn't lose time in any way to be continually firing there, and it just makes your path easier, so I would do that. Anyway, Aquatic Mine. That a free piece that I saw? That is a free piece, nice. So you've got 3 fans. Always be looking out for that if you're not already doing it. For people who play in 4-3 like myself, this is much more difficult to see. Because, like, the border of the screen is, like, here. So, like, you barely have time to see it. But, yeah, it is what it is. Oh, no! Oh, no! What is this? You're gonna need to explain yourself here, son. Well, you got Skull Pulley. What on earth are you doing? You've had 2 free pieces, and you've reset both of them. I don't understand. This will be a good marathon strat. Valuable use of RTA.
Why not, right?
This is really silly.
Come on, game. Give me a free piece.
And then, once you actually get a piece that you see, I bet you're not going to do the movement correctly for the start of the stage, because nobody does. Because people only practice this stage through stage select, which, I mean, you know, I can't blame them for, but still. Alright, let's just see how long it takes you to get a fucking piece. Alright, next one apparently.
Give me a free piece. You're not doing that.
Yeah, this is just really silly, by the way.
There we go.
Alright, second try lucky. Yeah, so then, like I say, movement at the start was wrong as well. So, the important thing to remember with Aquatic Mine is that Aquatic Mine in a hero story run is not the same as when you do it through stage select. So if I go to the stage just in stage select like this, I'm mashing A as soon as the stage begins, and I don't have control of Knuckles until I've landed on the ground. And just the same, like, that's always a thing. Whereas if I go to Aquatic Mine in story mode, there it is. You do have control of Knuckles as soon as the stage starts, like when Knuckles is in the air. So rather than waiting for him to land and then jump, glide, drill, dive, punch, you can just glide, drill, dive, punch. Like this, in other words. Like, you can just do it immediately like that. I kind of messed it up there, but you can see that I glided as soon as the stage started. So that's just a minor optimization that you can do. So you can pretty much just do it from the start here and just do the slope jump like that to immediately get up here. But yeah, I would advise against making a habit of like what you're doing right here. Because like I say, if you're doing like a marathon run or something, then this is just, A, it's going to waste a lot of time, and B, it just looks really dumb. And also, the most important fact, like I say, you did reset 2 free pieces. So if you were checking for... I'm not sure if you tilted the camera enough here. Yeah, you can just tilt the camera here to check for this piece as you're going towards the switch, just by, you know, using the camera buttons. So there's no need to go out of your way to travel towards this piece to check if you've got it, because you can already know at this point if you have it or not. But either way, so free piece and then corner of the tracks. Other way, other way, other way. Yeah, okay. Learn the stage layout then. Get used to stage orientation because this circumstance should have just been an immediate no-brainer of doing this. Nice camera inversion, that was weird. So just go down here again, this piece as you did, and then you should have just immediately gone down here and grab the piece like this all the way out, and then you're probably going towards Ghost Room, which means that you can then just immediately do the clip like this, and that shouldn't take much time at all. By the way, let's see how this works out. Jail window. Well, you're going towards that direction. So I'm not sure how proficient you are with wall running, but if you can do that, then it's certainly very helpful. Like let's look at how I would have done that. So I've just come out of here, and I can see that I've got jail window, so I'm probably at this point. This wall run is a little tricky to do with speed, to be fair. And this hint also gets in the way quite a lot. But if you can do this, then it's really helpful. Very quick. And if you're already at the bottom tier, I actually find the signposts here very easy to wall run along if you just approach them from the side like this. Like, I think that's quite reliable. If you've never, like, tried to do the wall runs before, it's simply performed by getting close to the sign like this, jumping onto it, and you can see there's this period here where Knuckles is grounded on it. And then if you punch with enough speed, it just acts like a normal punch excel, and it takes you along the vertex onto the wall, and you'll still be grounded on the wall. Like that. And then you can do it in multiple succession, if possible. Fuck yeah, my... Again, if you guys knew how to fucking do full screen capture, then I'd just be able to overlay it with a single region capture. I like that. Let's just... Yeah. So yeah, again, the relevant factor to remember with wall runs is you're needing to land on the sign like that. You can see there's this period where Knuckles is standing on it. So then punching, if you have enough speed, the punch will be a punch excel, which will just take you onto the wall. I did it too early there. And that's just how those work. Either way. Too low. Yeah. For jail window, you want to make sure that you're on the top half of the window rather than the bottom half. Just a thing to note. Jail window's a bit silly. Alright, so there's probably not going to be too much to talk about in Route 101, but I'll just have a look anyway. Well, you don't need to be drifting at this point. You only need to start drifting once you're on this first hill. Just to note. Because this has actually already caused you to slow down quite a bit. Okay, yeah, the main thing you can definitely work on throughout Route 101 in general is just your... Like, the turning is fine, it's the timing of the turns that's the problem. You're not taking the actual corners very effectively. Like, the snaking itself could be quite a bit worse. Actually, I'm gonna pay attention to...
Ah, I lost my damn... Fuck.
Have you calibrated your controller in Windows? Because Windows does let you calibrate your controller, whichever fucking controller it is, but it will actually increase the radius and change the dead zones, and this actually makes your Route 101 handling a lot sharper. So if you haven't done that, then you should do that. You will find Route 101 a lot easier, just so you know. Because this just looks odd to me right now. This doesn't look like normal handling. This looks like you're struggling to take the turns.
I'm bad at video games.
Like, this turn here should tell me a lot. Okay, like, I don't know, it's kind of in between. It might be calibrated, I'm not sure. But either way, the big thing to work on as well, like I say, is just the timing of the turns, so that you're taking them sharply and you're trying to like cut the insides of corners as much as you can. Oh god, yeah.
Damn it.
Geek is definitely a much better person for offering specific instructions on what to do in parts of Route 101 though. I mean, I can play a Route 101 just to show a comparison point. It's just I'm not really sure like how much illumination it's going to shed on anything. I'll try. I've got the boost. So for comparison's sake, your lap 1 time was 39.53. So a mid 39 for lap 1. That turn was wide, but whatever. So I'm trying not to turn more than necessary, and then I'm just getting ready to take inside turns when I actually need to take corners. So this is going to be a low 38. Yeah, so about a second and a half faster there. Oh dear. Okay, I've already majorly messed up because I want the next boost here. I hope I get it here. Yeah, whatever. Alright, this is actually quite a bit worse than normal for me now. This is not a very good showing of Route 101. Don't even have the boost here, this is atrocious. Ugh, 120. Not what I want. Because now I don't have the boost here either. Deary me. So that lost at least half a second for me. Which doesn't sound like a lot, but in Route 101, Route 101 itself shouldn't have a lot of variance, but then plus any timing change influences where the cars are going to be, which throws the whole stage off. Like, I missed so many boosts throughout that stage just because of, like, missing one of the trails in an awkward way. It's a really silly stage. Like, yeah, that's what I mean. Like, if you're not in the right place at the right time, then the cars can just be in such shit locations.
I don't want to look at it.
Yeah, if you want to learn more about Route 101 and how to play it, I would advise asking Geek specifically. He'll be able to like help out quite a bit more than me, I'd imagine. But suffice it to say that Route 101 is improvable by 20 seconds. There is about 20 seconds of possible improvement there. Okay, taking the right-hand path is the right thing to do here, but you really want to take a more direct path here. Like, at this point, you want to be going, like, in this direction and jumping at pretty much this point to try and make your flight path as short as possible, for the same reason that I've said before, that ground speed is higher than airspeed. And once you landed here, you are, like, facing towards the right, and then you need to change quite sharply to the left, so you're going to lose all your speed doing that as well. Like, you just stopped dead there. And it's possible to take this section whilst never stopping. As long as you're, like, on the left side here, you'll gain all 3 of these lock-ons. If you're, like, on the left side and aiming towards the left a little bit. If you're in this area, then you're just not going to get the lock-ons. I can demonstrate that quickly here. Excuse me. So from here, I'm not going to get the 3rd lock-on. You can just see it doesn't happen. No matter where I aim. Because the lock-ons in this game don't really care about where you're aiming, they care about where you're aiming from, if that makes sense. Whereas if I'm on this side, then getting that lock-on is no problem. So the ideal way that you want to try and get all these lock-ons is just in a smooth fashion like this. Like, if you can just get them all in one visit like that, then you don't even need to slow down at all. Yeah, making sure that you don't miss hover jumps is obviously important in this stage. If you're going to take the axle jump route, I would just make sure to pay attention to doing this hover jump off the door here, rather than off the floor. It's a minor difference, but you just get a little more height, so it makes the hover jump to get over this invisible wall here a little more easy. Like, I think you did it off the floor here. Yeah, you jumped before you reached the door here. You will just go straight onto this door and then you can jump off there. And it just gives you a little extra leeway for free. And if you're going to do axle jump, then it is actually preferable to do it as soon as possible. Like, you want to do it from here and just start traveling in this direction immediately, rather than running down here and just waiting longer before you get to where you need to be. And again, you want to be grounded as soon as possible. So there's a couple of different things at play here. I've got a couple of concepts to really explain here. First of all, like I say, getting out of bounds as soon as possible. Please, give me the height. So, once you're out of bounds with tails, one thing that becomes very important is camera control. Currently, I'm in auto cam, and it doesn't give me a very good impression of where I'm going to land here. Like, it's very easy to miss your landing due to stuff like that. So what you can do is, pretty much anytime you're out of bounds with tails, tapping the camera button will do the same thing in Green Forest on Bungee Skip. It will force you into free cam mode, and it will give you a much better view of where you can land. So I'll do that now. So you're going to notice that the camera is going to change views quite drastically. Like that. So now I'm in free cam mode. And the important detail here is that since I can see where I'm going to land, it gives me a nice cue for when it's safe to land here. So what you typically want to look at is the spot that you want to land on. Like, I ideally want to land around here. Once this crosses off the bottom of the screen, it's generally safe to just drop down and land on it. So I'm going to do that one more time with what I just said about that in mind. So once that spot goes off the bottom of the screen, I'm just going to drop. Oh, camera, for fuck's sake. Alright. I'll just restart with a neutral camera from the start of the stage then. Apparently the camera doesn't like going back to that spot and messing with the different camera modes. From the start of the stage, that'll be entirely consistent though. And you can avoid the camera getting stuck like that from the start of the stage just by not going too far to the left once you get out of bounds. Oh, whatever, I didn't have enough height there. Anyway, So as soon as this goes off the bottom, just drop down and you're safe. And then you get grounded speed there. As far as this pulley goes, Yeah, you can go off this pulley quite a bit sooner. You don't have to wait for it to pull you all the way up, for the same reason as I talked about the pulley in Metal Harbor when you grab the upgrade. That you wait for it to get up to the top here, and then it actually bounces down. So you actually ended up releasing it lower than the highest point, which you obviously could have done quite a bit sooner. And you're probably going to end up with spare height here as well. Oh, this is actually very close, but yeah. Point being that you can afford to let go of this pulley quite a bit sooner than you think, as it's pulling you up. And as long as your jump is good, I have got not enough height here, but you can always make a backup turn like that. So let's do this one more time from the start. And you just home free without too much difficulty. Okay. You can jump a little earlier here to try and get grounded as soon as possible. Like, waiting a few frames too long here, arguably, and you can see that you have some distance between Tails and the ground. If you just rub against this wall as you're rising against it, like as long as you have the height to get over the corner, then Tails will immediately be grounded and you'll just have full running speed, which is nice. Okay, it's been a while since I've seen someone do this. I used to do this, and I actually don't agree with doing this anymore. Because obviously, I can see you collapsing it so you can just run across here. But if you just do the hover jump here, even if you don't have enough height and distance to do the full jump here, where you just jump across the entire gap, it's still faster to do the hover jump and get most of the way across, and then need to take a backup at the end. It's still faster to do that rather than doing what you're doing here, which is collapsing the pillars. That's what I mean about ground speed there. And then just get off here and just go as soon as possible. And then even if you don't make it over like this, then it's still faster to just do something like that instead. Like, I got a 55 checkpoint there, and this is looking like it's going to be like a 101. Yeah. So, as far as an audio cue for when to go here, if you listen to the sound of the rings as the pulley pulls you up, so, like this is the first one, second one, third one, fourth one, fifth one. So you jumped after the fifth ring sound. What I find quite reliable is to jump on the fourth ring sound. So let's look at the route that you ended up taking here. So you can see you've got a lot of spare height there. Whereas I'm going to jump on the fourth ring sound and pay attention to where it sends me. That is just, you go in the same spot, but it's just quite a bit faster. Spare height, exactly. Getting through this door without stopping is very difficult, but it's something that you can try to do and aim for. Like, it doesn't cost anything to try it. Albeit it is very difficult. I'll have a go at it myself. No guarantees that I'm going to get it. Yeah, I got it. Nice. That is, in my opinion, one of the most difficult door breaks in the game, though. It's, well, it's the most difficult door break in the game. If you can get it, though, then it saves quite a bit of time. Okay, so rather than trying to go for a pause hover on that door, what you can instead do is you can just go for this corner directly after. Like, you can land on here and then just do a hover jump from here. Like, I did that from a stationary start and I still almost made it. We need some magic hover jumps to get back over here. Alright. I'm gonna get the best hover jump in the world right here. Told you. So basically, what you can do here is, you can see that there's the smoke particles under Tails' mech. That pretty much tells me when I need to start moving to the left, so that I can just do my air cornering here, and then hover jump over like that. So I'm gonna just do it all in one attempt here. Also, fucking hell, the camera in this stage is cancer. You know what, just do it from there. Alright, so from the top. Nice, got in the way. I still got it though. This is like really awkward to backtrack and demonstrate repeatedly. And I slipped off the corner there. You can see the idea though. This is another kind of like a mileage varies strat. But I really prefer to use the corner rather than the door because it's just so easy to miss a pause hover on top of the door. Because you only remain on the door for like a few frames anyway. Okay, you can definitely release this pulley quite a bit sooner. Because it's pretty much the same as like every other pulley that I've commented on. What you're doing here is like waiting way longer than necessary to get the height that you actually need. So like it pulls you almost all the way up. It pulls you all the way up actually, and then you jump. So when you jump over to the next pulley, just pay attention to what actually happens to Tails when he grabs it. See how far down Tails gets pushed there? That means that like you just have a lot of spare height there. So you could have done without all of that spare height and still like reasonably get the pulley. The easiest thing that you can do here is just, again, visually react to it. In the same way that I said in Mission Street, you can react to when you see the weight start to rise off the floor. You can just react to when you see the pulley start to pull Tails up. And you will still comfortably make it like that. And the earlier you go, the safer it is to use directional input as well. Because if you wait until like here and then hold down, then that causes the camera to get all squiffy. But if you just do it as soon as possible, then the camera doesn't really get time to invert and it sends you all the way across, which is quite nice. Yeah, if possible, try and get this box, like on this jump. Like at this point, you can just shoot the box like that. Like there's no reason to not do it at the same time as you do that jump, if possible, because it's, as you found there, it's for some reason actually surprisingly difficult to hit that box when you're standing on the metal box next to it. Yeah, just go around the enemies there rather than hover jumping over them, in my opinion. Doing a pause hover here, and in this area in general, is definitely not necessary. Like, if you can make that hover jump over the invisible wall without pausing, you definitely don't need to pause hover for these two. Like, let me demonstrate something quickly. This jump in particular does not even need to be a... This doesn't even need to be a hover jump. See that you can just hover at the peak of the jump and you'll still make it up. This isn't even a hover jump. As long as you're just angling towards the wall, you should make this very easily. Like I say, without even needing to make it a hover jump. So like any hover jump should make this, as long as you are moving towards the wall. And it's kind of the same deal here as well. That this barely needs to be a hover jump to make it up. Now, if you're going to take these two jumps optimally, then you will need some decent hover jumps. And by optimally, I mean, rather than going towards the right here, you can instead take an angle jump just straight across there. Obviously, it has some risk if you're not very confident at hover jumping, because if you don't make the height, you'll just fall in the sand, but that is the best way you can take that. And then from here, just running straight here, and waiting until Tails like reaches the corner of this carpet, you can do another straight hover jump to land directly on here. And then just, you know, take the last one. But remember, do your turning in the air so you don't lose too much speed. And it should be good. Okay, I'm not going to argue too much against making sure to get all three of the lock-ons there. Again, generally waiting way longer than necessary on all of these pulleys though. Like, if this platform is like drop down, you could have jumped already, but you're waiting another like half second there. And then as soon as you see this pulley here pulling you up, you can just go straight off it. Like, you don't need to wait until it's as high as that. I'll just demonstrate here. Okay, so that's down, so jump and jump. And you get up there without needing like barely any height. But yeah, so hidden base. Alright, so Pyramid Cave, the most technical stage in the run. Let's have a look. So if you want to have a slightly better time of starting Pyramid Cave, I can see that you're just holding straight up on the control stick. That's tempting, but it's actually worse than holding, believe it or not, down left to begin with. If you start the drop by holding down left and then tilt clockwise towards upright, you can actually land directly on the speed pads. Trust me, I'm not crazy. Nearly directly on them. Because if I go back to your game feed, then it's like you almost got into the worst case scenario. Yes, but it's worse to do the spin dash charge on the speed pads, which is almost what happened in this instance, which gives you absolutely no speed from the speed pads. It in fact just gives you the speed pad speed without any of the spin dash charge. And it's still perfectly viable to get mid to low 12s with the method that I use, which is, again, bad turn there, or whatever. So that was like really bad, and it ended up being a low 13. Didn't get spin dash charge. Really slow there. And it's still like almost a 12 checkpoint. And to be honest, there's a lot of people that just don't get 12 checkpoints. But point being, it is preferable to just holding straight up when you start the stage, which I'm going to do here. Because, yeah, I'm going fast here. Or even getting it like before the speed pads, which again, I don't really advise. And then it's ending up like nearly a second slower. It's like, it's just not better to do it like that. I'm not entirely sure why you're jumping around the speed pads there, though. Okay. Okay, so if you're going to need to do a backup like this, where you get launched to the right side here, the only thing that you should bear in mind is to not use the camera buttons at this point. Because, like, being in this specific sort of position, like on this side, just in this general area, it's very easy to accidentally force free cam, and free cam is really, really bad at the start of Pyramid Cave. It makes a lot of the tricks a lot more difficult. You shouldn't jump there either. You should just let the spin dash roll off the edge. And you should make sure you are far in the corner before you do the spin dash there. spin dash hover there is correct, but you can immediately be moving towards the zippers. So let's have a demonstration. So just do a spin dash chain and then let the spin dash roll off there. Make sure you're in the corner. Try not to get too much air there either. That's difficult to avoid though, to be fair. If Sonic does oops here, then rather than continuing to hold forward, you should just let go of the control stick and just jump and homing attack across the gap. Because if you like continue to hold up, then you're just going to fall and probably die. And now I have free cam. This is awful. This is a good example to show why free cam is bad, because now that I'm in free cam, look what happens when I do this mock bounce. That camera is just awful to work with. You really don't want that. And then once you get towards the first door skip here, it's really bad for that as well. So when I get over here, the camera's going to be really awkwardly situated for, yeah, seeing where I'm going. It's just not very good at all. Anyway, let's carry on. You can definitely just spin dash chain through there, like I have demonstrated before, and wow, yeah, try not to take deaths there. With Sonic, you almost always want to be spin dash chaining, as I'm sure you know anyway. Okay, what you can do to avoid speed loss here is, once you let this spin dash go into the wall, you continue to hold upright. And this is actually the same thing that I mentioned in City Escape at the end of the truck section. If you have directional input into the wall, it will slow you right down. So after you angle the spin dash towards the wall, just flick it towards the wall and then go neutral stick. And Sonic will travel parallel to the wall without losing any speed. Like here, you just slowed right down there. Whereas in comparison, I'm just going to be holding B after I get off the rail. I'm going to just aim the spin dash upright, and then as soon as I fire the spin dash, I'm just going to go back to neutral stick, and you're going to be able to see how much faster it is. Like, you conserve a lot of speed doing that. Okay, so door skip. So this is like a really fine thing. Just pull up my game though. So for door skip, obviously the most important factor is where you start from, and we generally start from this area, where like the join on the floor pattern is. So the conventional wisdom has always been to make sure Sonic's feet are like on the joining point, like here. And like this can work, but what I've found makes this a lot more consistent is if you just start a little closer than you think you need to be, like somewhere around here. This gets you through like super reliably for some reason. I don't fully understand why it's a lot better, but it is. So if you're ever like finding you're just struggling to get through, just be a little closer than you think you need to be. Okay, so no snake skip. So it's a difficult trick, so I don't necessarily blame you. The camera can be a bit squiffy here now, though. Okay. Okay, so the reason the camera went squiffy here is because you turned this corner too soon. Like, if you specifically look at how the camera is trying to keep up with you here. You're going down here at, like, max speed, and then you turned left almost as soon as you could, and the camera simply doesn't get past the left wall before it starts trying to reorient itself. So it's just still stuck on the inside of the corner. If you just wait slightly longer before doing that left turn, then the camera won't get stuck here. And it is very possible to die from homing attacking in the wrong direction here, so you really want to see what you're doing here. I would prioritize getting the camera to follow you instead of getting around the corner as soon as possible. Like, there are certain spots in the game where you want to, like, make certain compromises with having optimal movement just for safety, and this is honestly one of them. That too, yeah, what SMB says. Camera buttons, if you need to force free camera button is almost always a good bet. So rather than, yeah, I knew that was going to happen where you came off the vertex here. Rather than just spin dashing from this point, you want to do a bounce acceleration here so that you cross this vertex and you spin dash from here. Because then, like, you'll do the first spin dash, and basically this second spin dash that you were going to do here would have been right here as you crested over the hill, and it would just help you stick to the floor. I'll demonstrate what I mean here. I've got a bit of catching up to do. Lol. Nice inputting. I am gonna do snake skip though, because I'm proper good, me. Say that. Back up then. Nice one, Sonic. Lol. So basically, bounce excel. Lol, I'll try again. Again, inputs. I'm struggling with that bounce excels today. And then let the spin dash carry you over that hill before you let it go. And it will help you stick to the floor very reliably there. Because the comparison point is just, if I try to spin dash changes from here, then being in running form when you go over that hill, it can result in what you had there, where you just sometimes fly into the air like that, and then it's like, you know, bonus kill. Whereas that can also happen there, but I find it's really uncommon. It's just the dumb physics in this game. But it is overwhelmingly more reliable to do what I'm doing here, which is to bounce excel, and then do a spin dash chain there. And it sets you up nicely for the next one as well. So it's nice. Oh yeah, you don't want to cancel in that spot. And you do not want to do that. Don't do that. If you're going to try and do a loop skip there, then what you need to be doing is avoiding the speed pads, because the speed pads lock your controls. The combination of hitting a loop speed trigger there and hitting the speed pads directly before, even if I run through it, it causes this thing here where it looks like I'm not making any progress. It's super easy to die like that. So if you must use a weird loop skip here, jump over these speed pads, and then you'll at least have control of Sonic to do that. But if you hit the speed pads, just don't bother. Just go through the loop normally, because you are asking to die by trying to combine hitting the speed pads with a loop skip, especially in ball form. It's just like, this is just awful, because look at these situations you can get in. So yeah, just, I'm like pulling rank here and like saying, don't do this, I don't want to catch you doing this, or we're not going to be friends anymore. Just, if you must, jump over the speed pads and then jump over like this. But don't combine the two. Otherwise you're going to have a bad time. You'll lose runs to that. And it's such a stupid thing to lose a run to. Especially considering it's one of the worst spots in the run you can die. For time loss. Anyway, Death Chamber.
Here we go.
There is no reason to not check for free pieces at the start of the stage. If you haven't been told this already, I'm really surprised, because this is... You should 100% of the time be checking for free pieces at the start of Death Chamber. Check for bugs on patrol up here, just moving along the wall. And you check for roasted keys above the torch here. You should be doing this 100% of the time. Okay, well... I then get the circumstance where you don't actually want to do it. The only time you don't want to do those free piece checks is if you have a green ping, because you are just super unlikely to have either of those pieces. Well, you won't have roasted keys. It's possible to have bugs on patrol, but it's extremely unlikely. So if you have a green ping, you can just do what you did here, which is get the hint and then just move as normally. But if you don't have a green ping, then you always want to check like this. I actually just want to farm to make the point, so you can see like what you're looking for. There you go. Super quick and easy to check for this piece right here, is it not? And then get your piece within 3 seconds. And if you have a high jump, then you won't even die. See if I can get Bugs on Patrol to show up quickly as well. I can have quicker restarts here. Come on, game. Work with me here. I don't think this is happening. Come on, less life to get it. Ah, rip. Either way, yeah. Point made. Always check for those free pieces when you start the stage. Because the fact that I didn't get it all those times, it's like, yeah, you're not likely to get it on any single attempt, but obviously, if it's the one time that you did get it and you didn't see it, it's like, that's a ridiculous thing to lose, like, upwards to 20 seconds to. Because you could lose, like, between 20 and 30 seconds just from missing a free piece there. From the travel time required. If you're gonna go for crappy green pieces like this, like, there's a lot of runners who just will not go for these pieces, myself included, but since you're dying here, you may as well have just taken your first hit before you grab the piece. Like, because you needed to wait to die here. So take the first hit to lose your rings before you grab the piece, then grab the piece, and then die. Simple. This was really lucky getting a respawn piece here. And there, it's Roasted Keys, it's the one I told you to check for. But you can do the Death Abuse from green, but we typically do it more so for the teleport rather than the respawn piece chance. It's not as likely to get a respawn piece from green as it is from blue, so you got really lucky to get a respawn piece here. And just so you know, in that case, if you are dying from green, you shouldn't farm for respawn pieces. Just do it once to see if you get one, and if you don't, just, like, take what you get. If you're dying from blue, it often is worth farming for a respawn piece, but I wouldn't recommend doing it from green. Excuse me. Wow, these pieces. Sure is something. Something... Well, okay, a movement path that I would recommend using for Eggman's eye level, just coming from red, is something like this. Well, not something like this. This is what I recommend you do. Grab the piece easily. So jump on here, onto here, onto the box, and then across here. And that's a very simple path to take, and the camera won't get in the way when you do that. Like, the camera won't make that more difficult than it needs to be. Alright, so no fireball skip, like, that's fine. Fireball skip is quite an advanced trick. I've only started using fireball skip myself. You can go a lot sooner for hitting the ghost, though. Like, I can't get to King Boom Boo quickly, but... So you'll just have to take my word on this. So Boom Boo's going to throw 4 fireballs, and then... After the 4th fireball, he breathes in. That breathing in sound effect is when the ghost will no longer run away. And the aggro range for the ghost, I'll just describe it when it gets a bit closer. Yeah, the aggro range for the ghost is like about here. So once you like get about to this spot, this is when you would have aggroed the ghost. So like low 20. So let's compare. So you could have gone like at least 2 seconds faster there. What I typically recommend doing is waiting for his second fireball to hit the ground and then start angling around. Just like start angling around a little more sharply and a little more sharply until you are going to just start running straight towards the ghost. And you play around with the timing with that a little bit, but it can help you save a couple of seconds. So like running at this angle to start is fine. So then 1, 2, and then start angling yourself around. At which point, like at this point, you should be, I was actually physically pointing to my screen there, that really helps. You should be like around here. Like at this point, you should be around here. And then once you get like really close to the aggro spot, the breathing in sound effect happens, and then you can just go straight for the ghost. Good movement there, actually. Getting out of the ground, that was really good movement. So if you want to just optimize the hits after when you're chaining the hits together, the thing to note is that every time he lands on the ground, he's going to do 5 extra red flashes. I'm going to just slow this down so we can count them out. So you can see he's flashing red with his iframes. So, goes on the ground. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then, like halfway through the next one, he becomes vulnerable. So since the punch hitbox lasts a while, that's fine. So once he's on the ground, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then he's vulnerable. And you can see you're waiting quite a while there. So now again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and now he's vulnerable. And you can just punch. So you can just react to that. And it's slow enough that even on normal speed you can still count them as they're coming out. So, yeah, you'll be able to count them here. So, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, punch. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, punch. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, punch. And that's pretty reliable. As long as you don't go too early, you won't miss the hits. Yep, use A to get past the cutscene, saves RTA and IGT, so please do that. Alright, so if you're not going to use super bouncers, let's see what happens here. Alright, so if you're not going to super bounce on Egg Golem, then what you should do for the regular hits is... you want to get on the second platform and then just do 2 bounces. Or alternatively, so just get on here, so bounce and... yeah, just like bounce to get up and then bounce, bounce. Start again. That feel when going slower than normal to demonstrate stuff and it's making me make mistakes. So, dum, dum, dum. And you can just go for the hieroglyph immediately. Like from a double bounce, you can go for the hieroglyph from right there. Just so you know. So yeah, you can just double... yeah, there you go, exactly. So you know how to do it. You should just do that all the time. Yeah, precisely. Just do this all the time. Okay, good. For a bounceless Egg Golem, this is quite good. Okay, one thing I do need to note here, though. When you end up in this position, where you land on his arm after the head smash, I'm going to see if I can get in that situation. Don't spin. Yeah, that's a spin. So he will always spin if you're behind him when he decides his next attack cycle, unfortunately. That's directly what causes that. Nice. I've still got time to get the Superman, so I just won't miss this one. Told you. Alright, so hopefully he's going to land me on his arm. Yeah, so I'm going to go back to looking at your footage quickly. And I think I know what happened. Yep, you were holding left throughout this air point, and when you landed on the arm, you were holding left. What you instead want to do is actually hold down right once you land on the arm. Like, when you're in the air, like, once I unpause, I'm going to be holding down right. And then once you land on the arm, you can just tilt clockwise towards left, because you'll have control of Sonic. For some reason, holding the wrong direction just makes it harder to retain control of Sonic. But as long as I hold down right here, I should have full control, and I can just start running towards the left. Like that. And then you can just be in position to get a quick last hit. Also, let's see if... I don't have the Ancient Light. Never mind. Anyway. Yeah. Yeah, that was dangerous. That was very dangerous. Nice last hit, though. I like that. Oh, alright. Like, okay, just for demonstration's sake, let's start a fresh egg golem. My estimate is that a clean, bounceless egg golem is going to be about 50 seconds. Lovely, he was angled when... I don't need to go too fast, alright. That's the wrong scene. I am good at this, I promise. As punishment, Tails can meet an early demise. Alright, there we go. So, 50-ish second fight, hopefully. Yeah, around that spot. It's like between 50 and 55. So, yeah.
Alright, time for another Get Says. I really want to, but I'm scared. Like, I want this PB.
Alright, so... I bet we're gonna see a sick Bofa clip, guys. Huh? Oh yeah, this is Bofa.
Yes.
Terrible. I mean, if you get the clip, you get the clip, obviously. But, like, I don't really like that method. If you haven't seen JW's method, I can give a quick demonstration. This is what I use to get out of bounds. And I find this quite a bit more reliable, and it's actually a bit militarized, and it's not just guessing at what might work. I'll even use the left side just for you. Tails, please. So the method that I like to use here is to run along like the left side where you line up with these red points. Just run up here And then once you reach the bottom corner of this second one, start angling towards the wall. And at this point, what you want to be doing is using the laser pointer as your cue of the angle that you want to hold. This is pretty much dead on. This is exactly where I want to go. You can see the laser pointer is pointing just in front of the boxes, like it's hitting the wall just next to the boxes. So on the other side, you'd want to be aiming like around here. Again, on the wall, just beyond the boxes. This is pretty much exactly the direction that you want to be going in. And then if you're going in that correct direction, then you should reach both this floor marker here and actually hitting the wall at about the same point. And at that point, you just want to do a simultaneous jump and shot. Like, just tap A and B at the same time. And, yeah. That is the theory.
Alright, I'm not going to risk CGSS. I'm just going to go for good old CGS.
You do not need to use a hover to get out, no, you just tap A and B. The only reason that you even tap A is to get the height to hit both boxes, because if you shoot from ground level, you pretty much only get the bottom box. Otherwise, we would just tap B to shoot the boxes, if that works. And yeah, this is just the skip. You look a little too low. Okay, yeah. Basically in the right spot. Nice though. Sub 130. It's just, yeah, if you can do that, you can do it. Not much to say about it. I suppose I can try and get like a good Eternal Engine to show what a good time is like, I suppose, like plus a good start. Lol. Yeah, getting the shots here is not easy. I'll take that. So this can be a sub 120. Also, I do 2 seconds of free fall here to set up getting close to the ring at the end, so that I can have an audio cue as well as a visual cue. Like, if I do 2 seconds of free fall here, I'm going to be quite close to the ring, like, height-wise. I'll be quite close to it, so that once I get near to where I need to be, I'm going to hear the goal ring before I see anything. That lets me know that I'm in the right spot. Looks about right. Albeit goes slightly fall left. So listen out. See there how like I heard it before I saw the wall? That's what I mean. And a cool 118. It's how video games work, innit? And I'm going to just pause the game again so that my audio is not always going. Alright. So Dangerous Liquid, piece 1. Okay. So I've already got something to say about Meteor Herd. Which means we're going back to my game feed. There is no reason to not check for Wandering Between the second and third levels as a free piece. So like I'm going up here. And that is the piece that is going up and down this wall. And there is quite an easy way to check for it, because if you force free cam by holding one of the shoulder buttons to rotate the camera towards this point, if you then continue to hold both of the shoulder buttons, the camera will stay fixed in this position. Like you can see that I'm getting a solid view there. And you can just do that very easily as you're going in this direction. Like you hold R for a second to set up the camera angle, and then you just hold L with it, and you are just looking in this direction. So it makes checking for that piece free. It's an uncommon piece, but there is no situation where seeing that for free is like a bad thing. So I would get in that habit. Similarly as well, if you're taking this rocket up to the center, I also like to just use a camera button when I'm near the top to set up free cam again. So like R here, so that you can just see exactly where you're going when you reach the top. Like, camera control in this game is surprisingly important.
It's not up here? Okay.
No, Dangerous Liquid's always up here. The mnemonic that I like to use here is the two top enemy pieces here are Dangerous Liquid on the left and Dangerous Water Drops on the right. So I just try and remember Liquid starts with L, like left. So L for left, Dangerous Liquid. It's silly, but you have to kind of just make up these silly mnemonics to remember some of the pieces in this game. That was one moon, okay, that's the mid.
That's like...
Yes, keep going in that direction. Don't dither though. So that's under the start. Yep. Rather than the route that you're taking here, what I would recommend is doing this. So let's just pretend we're going for the same piece. Notice the hint monitor here. There is an easy way to get back here. So let's say I just got this. Just dive straight into the spring here. And then it drops you straight off here with your next hint. They were watching the stars, so that's below you. These pieces were not bad, actually. Not gonna lie. Yeah, that's the bottom one. Lower. Rightwards, there you go. He got it. I think he got it.
Looking good. Crazy.
Okay, Rogue. Ringless. Ah, I get to talk about Ringless again. Okay, so if you're going to go for the Ringless strat, you really just want to squeeze the available time save it can give you, because Ringless objectively doesn't save that much time unless you actually try and squeeze the time save out of it. So the important thing to note is when you gain control in the fight, which is based on the in-game timer here. When the in-game timer pretty much hits 8.02, pretty much at dead on 8, you'll have control of Knuckles. I'll slow it down here. And you'll see that the text is going to disappear and the cameras start to move at about 8. So as soon as that happens, you can just be, you can do a double A input to jump and then glide towards her directionless. And then it's just a matter of timing the B input to drill dive into her when you're above her. Like, you should already be airborne and going towards her at this point. But it's like... it's about half a second slower the way you did it like this. Albeit you can now see where you are, but if you mistime it, then you're still going to miss the hit anyway. And yeah, you actually did miss the hit. Yeah, because you were actually too late, so yeah, like I say, it's better to actually just get a feel for the timing for it, because you actually did miss the hit there. Let's go back and see that again. Yeah, wow. It's surprising. So this is going to be like a 17. Alright, a high 16, still.
I'm gonna go for it.
I don't know what I'm talking about. I don't run this game.
I'm going to. No, I'm not going to. I am. I'm not. God, Woo!
Alright, calm down. It's just a speedrun. Really wobbly movement there. If anything, just work on your practicing the movement to get through those corridors in straight lines, because that was just really wobbly. One thing I do want to point out, if you're not already aware of this, a very valuable backup to know in this spot at the start of Crazy Gadget is this. And yeah, like I say, movement. Please, boxes, fuck off. Okay, so let's say you bounce down here. And let's say you miss this capsule. So a lot of people are just going to like struggle to get back up here, and you know, you can get back up here, but it takes a bit of time. What you can instead do is, this back wall has a really weird property where it pushes you down like this. So if you jump and then go against the back wall, you can be in jump form with the homing attack aura at this point. So you can just homing attack the glass. And as long as you're in the right spot, it will just break the glass like that. That's quite a nice backup to be aware of, in my opinion. Aim to do a super bounce here rather than just jump like you did. I'm not sure if you were trying to super bounce here, but if you were, it certainly didn't come out. So the cue that I use for this is to just spin dash, bounce excel there, let another spin dash go, and then once I cross these metal boxes here, then I just do a super bounce. So I'll approach there again. From the spring. Please. Where is it? Oh. Rough. Yeah, just once I'm past those boxes, I do the super bounce. For some reason, I didn't get the height there, but that's generally what I aim to do each time. Yeah, making sure you get the checkpoint here is quite important because I know you go for CGSS, which, I mean, 42, it's questionable, but, you know, if you can do it, you can do it. Oh, and it's the free cam method. Okay, well, you okay, kind of, I don't fucking... Yeah, way too low there, unfortunately.
Let's just go for CGS. Let's just go for CGS.
Oh, okay, now you're just going for CGS, alright. Well, you've got time save next run, I suppose. Okay, so, I mean, I definitely can comment on CGS, so let's have a look at this. Okay, so you at least made sure you had a full spin dash, that is important. Falling against the back wall like this, it looks like you deliberately fell against the back wall here. I don't necessarily recommend this. Because what you can do with CGS is, once you're through the corridor, just like fall more to the right, and you can just fall straight into the next corridor without needing the chaos to help you out at all. Didn't even make it, lol. It's been a while since I've done this, but this is fundamental movement, so I shouldn't be fucking this up, because this is just a long spin dash jump with a cancel. Please. I didn't even... yeah. My finger actually slipped off B there. Finger? Thumb. I don't use fingers, I use thumbs only for gaming. So yeah, you can just fall through to the next corridor like this, as long as you're like rightwards enough like that, and as long as the tentacle still avoids you. Oh, you usually try to get hit. Well, like you say, like I just did there, you can just forego the chaos altogether. The chaos should only ever really be used as a backup, in my opinion. Either way, let's see how this progresses. Okay, so you know how to get hit at least, that's nice. You really should, if you're gonna get hit there, you should just do the light dash on the rings here. I mean, like, you've got a ring, which is the important thing, but the light dash gives you a bit more speed as well. But it's like two sides of the same coin. You want the speed, and you want to make sure you actually have rings. So if you're going to clip onto the floor here, it's a lot easier to do it in the corner. I don't entirely understand why, but it's kind of similar to, like, in Hidden Base when you're doing GC skip, doing it against the corner. The two individual corners don't interact with you properly. But it's generally easier to clip onto the floor here when you do it in the corner. Like, you can get it pretty reliably like that, I find. And I'm trying to get, like, on the floor here, but... Okay, what, that time? That time. Okay, I'm having a pretty good time with this right now, but... Corner is definitely my preferred method, because even there, it looked like I wasn't going to get on, and then the game just decided, yeah, okay, it's easier to just force you onto the floor there. And I slowed down a lot there. Okay, that time that was just a flat-out fail. But yeah, I personally prefer to use the corner. So let's see what method you use here. Okay, the spin dash method. And this is why I don't like the spin dash method here. Yeah, right. Because, like, the fact you took damage there, that's exactly what I was talking about. This is why you kind of need rings for this room, unless you're really consistent, because, obviously, if you hadn't grabbed a ring there, you would have just died in that spot. And it's completely unnecessary, in my opinion, to even do that. I prefer to use the bounce method here. Which, if you want to look into it, I mean, I just hate getting on this wall in the first place. And then, yeah, it's just bad. I really don't like that. So what I prefer to instead do is do the bounce method, which I've just mentioned. Which, it seems a bit counterintuitive. You need to hold down on the control stick, which you will get a little bit of time to hold down before you just walk into the acid. And then, as soon as you're holding down, you just do a very quick semi-super bouncing motion. It's just a very quick A followed by B. So you pretty much just roll your thumb from A to B. Let's start with neutral camera. Okay, so this is the proper camera angle. No, it's not. Still, fuck. Get on the floor, Sonic. Like that. I really hate... I'm just going to intentionally die here to reset the camera. If I can. This is actually difficult to die. Oh, well, that shows what I mean. Like, in certain spots, you can hold... I am holding down on the control stick, and it is difficult to die. So, yeah. You can definitely, potentially have an easy time with the bounce method. So I'm just going to start from the start of the skip and just hopefully get the bounce method immediately and quickly. With the auto cam that you get from entering the room at the start. Like that. And then getting the enemy like that should be super elementary. Please be against the floor. Good. Good camera. So I'm not sure if you've observed this or learned the hard way, but I mean, I get to demonstrate it now. If you're not against the floor when you turn that corner, like when you turn the corner, you were like down on the floor here, but if I stay up at the top here, you get a bad camera. And this is actually one of the better bad cameras you can get, and it's still unnecessarily difficult to work with. So if you're going to keep using CGS, just make sure you keep doing what you're already doing there, which is staying against the floor, otherwise you'll have really bad problems with the camera in this last hallway. Good. I don't like this method at all. I mean, you made it, but I really don't like that method for getting in the gold ring. So the only things that I would really suggest changing here is homing attacking once you're through the wall. The way that you save the homing attack for when you're already getting near the goal ring, it just makes it more difficult to gauge properly where you're going to land because the camera's panning around and you don't have a good view of it. What I end up doing instead is homing attacking early to get the distance to be where I need to be, and then I just fall straight into the goal ring. Because the problem you're having is you're needing to make manual angle adjustments whilst fighting against the camera, and that's just unnecessarily difficult. I can pinpoint exactly where you need to be as soon as you're out of bounds. So this is where you're trying to aim. So just my mouse cursor is where you're trying to aim, and I'm going to just move it like with the target point. And then you're moving up. So it's like you moved up into where you needed to be as the camera was panning around, and that's honestly, even if it works for you consistently, like it's asking for trouble, and it only needs to be that one time where you are on a really good pace run, and then it just doesn't work for some reason, and you're suddenly just not on run anymore. Whereas what I prefer to do, if I just pull up my game feed, is as soon as I'm through the wall, I'm going to homing attack cancel. And now I'm already basically where I need to be. This is where I need to fall at, and I'm going to need to only make very gradual adjustments, and then I'm going to be able to fall straight into the goal ring. So I'm just basically falling now. Yes! And I just barely needed to adjust at the end there. But, I mean, you know, if a CGS method works, it works. I just don't want you to be in the position where you're on a really good run, like I say, and then it just is the one time where that method inexplicably fails for you. And it does have just a lot more moving parts and variables than it strictly needs to. I'm just warning you that sooner or later it's probably going to bite you in the ass. Anyway, Eggman. So facing in that direction to start is definitely good. You definitely can get yourself ready to do the second hit a bit earlier than you did here. Eggman typically reacts to taking damage by firing like 5-6 no-scope shots, so you can listen to his cannon firing here. So you can see like he fired like, he might have fired 7 shots there, but you can basically see that he fires like 6 shots and then starts moving away. That's when his iframes end as well. So once you have circle strafed him enough and you're counting out those shots, you can just face straight up and shoot him again. So again, just face up and then fire like that as soon as he starts moving off.
Can you hit him, Tails?
Yeah, don't be so close like that. Like you mentioned about punching him, just make sure you get a little further away from him. Alternatively, if you absolutely need to be toe-to-toe with him, what you can do is just be hovering. Because if you're airborne, you can't punch. That's something that Dark Pro actually makes use of. Like, he just hovers against Eggman. I don't frankly know how it works for him because your shots will be higher up, but it does guarantee that you won't punch as long as you're airborne. Yeah, this is hairy. Stop being so close to him! Yeah, just fire from there. There you go. Be at that sort of range. Just don't be toe-to-toe with Eggman. That's all I'm going to say about that fight. Like, you have a good understanding about how to deal with that fight. Just don't be toe-to-toe with him at all times. Especially because the punch does a lot less damage. And especially because it will typically launch him across the arena and trigger the laser attack, which is the absolute worst case scenario, because then it's really difficult to avoid. So just make sure you're not toe-to-toe with Eggman at all times. Otherwise, I'll come and get you. Going without the checkpoint is spicy. Alright, okay, I definitely get to speak as an authority here. What you really should consider doing here is using the low bounceless method. If you're using the bounceless method for Final Rush Skip, this method is objectively inferior. This is slower and it's less safe than a very minor adjustment you can do to your FR skip visual cues. What I can see that you're clearly doing here, because this is what I used to do, is you're like lining up Sonic's hand with this structure. You can go about as high as this yellow light, and then if you go any higher, the gravity resets. So basically, you're close to the gravity reset threshold here. Like if you go much higher, gravity is just going to reset and you failed to skip. So I think you're operating on our old understanding of the skip, which is, oh, we should fall as horizontally as possible to gain as much distance and lose as little height as possible, because then it makes it easier to reach the goal ring. And that's not necessarily true, because while you are going more horizontally and you're losing less height, at the same time you're also moving further away from the goal ring, because you have to consider that once you get past the kill plane, you're resetting gravity and then turning to the right, and you're basically falling in like this direction-ish. So all of the time that you spend falling in this initial direction, you are getting further away from the goal ring, and it actually makes it more difficult to reach the goal ring. So the only reason we need to do this skewed gravity fall in the first place is to avoid the kill plane that's currently below us. Like, you currently have enough height to reach a kill plane that is like on the horizon-ish, like down here. You can still be falling lower down and come close to the kill plane, but still be safe enough to avoid it. And then when you do the gravity reset, you will be closer to the goal ring, which by the end of the skip actually makes it considerably safer. And the visual cue to do that is not based on Sonic's hand or aura or anything over here. It's actually up here in the corner. This is possible on both 16.9 and 4.3. And it's convenient because since you're paying attention to the timer, you don't need to divert your attention away from this area of the screen as well. You can be looking at this area of the screen to pay attention to both your timing and the visual cue for your falling angle. And it's based specifically on these yellow lights here and how they are against the top of the screen. So I'm going to pull up my game feed here, and this is going to be like basically a dedicated bit of demo time. So, this is what you're currently doing. Currently you're falling like around here, and you can see you can get about this high, and then once you get past this point, then the gravity resets. I'm actually going to give myself lives through Spade's tool for this. So there's problem number one, the fact that the angle that you're using comes close to automatically failing from going too high. So what I mentioned about your cue instead being based on these lights here is once these lights, like these bottom lights that I'm highlighting here with my cursor, once these are like at the very top of the screen / about to go off screen, that is the perfect angle that you need for reaching the goal ring as efficiently as possible. You will come close to the kill plane without actually risking hitting it, and you will have a lot more distance at the end. So I'm just going to get myself killed again and start from a neutral start. So what I'm going to do first of all is I'm going to fall slightly too low and show you that if you don't follow that strictly, you will hit the kill plane. Like, it is precise, and if you're a little too low, you will hit the kill plane. Please? Alright, no. Take another death. So I'm going to get those lights at the top of the screen, like I said, but I'm going to push them slightly off screen, and that's going to make me go too low, and I will hit a kill plane. So falling like this. The lights are just off screen. In about 5 seconds, I'm going to hit a kill plane. Ish. Okay, I actually got past it somehow. I wasn't actually expecting that. But now I'm like dead. I'll just go way too low this time. Please. Oh my god, for fuck's sake, game. Alright. Yeah, there's no way I'm dodging the kill plane like this. There you go. So I'm starting again from, what's my checkpoint time? Alright, 14.2. Nice! Inverted bounce on the vertex. I love it when that happens. Alright. So again, I'm going to fall a bit too low. Should hit the kill plane like this. There you go, now I'm hitting it. So now I'm going to fall at what I said the correct angle was. So, come on, here you go. See these lights like right at the top of the screen? So this is like the perfect angle. This is 100% exactly where I need to be. And I'm just gonna, as long as I wasn't too low to begin with, just be falling, falling, falling. Yeah, so I'm past the kill plane here. So that's like pretty much exactly where you want it to be. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to do 2 different instances of doing the skip from restarting from the checkpoint to make sure the timing is the same. And I'm going to do the method that you're like using in the video, in your run, and I'm going to use like my low bounceless method. So first of all I need to die just to reset the timing. So first of all, I'm going to use your method and estimating a fall time of 16 seconds before I reset gravity. So I'm going to pay attention to what my timer is when the camera pans around and add 16 seconds. I can't do basic movement. Alright, so 20. So at this angle, I'm going to change it 36. And I hit the kill plane. Either from turning too early or whatever else, but I hit the kill plane there. Let's try one more time. We're at 36.5 here. And I'm still hitting the kill plane. So I'm having difficulties here. Whereas if I switch to this other method, the low method, again 20, so I'll change it 36. And pretty home free. And this is hopefully going to give me quite a bit of spare height at the end as well. So then just as a final like comparative example, I'm going to restart from the checkpoint again, do like the older method again, adding a little bit of time on the skewed gravity fall to make sure I get around the kill plane. But I'm probably going to be a lot tighter getting to the end like this. Like I'm expecting to have quite a bit of spare height here. There we go, like I'm really high up here. And so hitting the goal ring from here is absolutely no problem. Yeah, you can see I've got a few seconds of free fall time. So then final example, old fall angle. Let's do like 17.5 just to make sure I get around the kill plane, I guess. So this is like exactly the angle you were using in PB. Okay, so I'm around the kill plane this time, but whether I actually make it to the end with the height that I have remains to be seen because I've fallen away from the goal ring for longer, like I say. Like previously with the other method I was starting closer, my gravity reset was taking place closer to the goal ring and it was taking place sooner as well. Like a second and a half sooner. I'm still making this, albeit it's a bit closer, and because I had to fall for longer, it means the finishing time is going to be worse as well. This is going to be like 125. Yeah, like that's a low 126. So you can definitely stand to save a couple of seconds and be considerably safer on the end just from adopting the low bounceless method, which I really recommend. Again, it's just based on these lights here. And these lights are about to go off screen, or they are like on the border of the screen. You are like dead on for the angle. And then your timing is from when the camera pans around to this angle, and it's just plus 16 seconds from there. And then, yeah, this is just the skip. Yeah, like you're so close to the reset angle there. So like if you'd accidentally brushed it there, it's like, well, yeah, you've just failed the skip. And it's just such a silly thing to miss the skip to. You may as well just land straight in the goal ring there without landing on the platform. But yeah, it is what it is. So Shadow. So you can start Shadow just by, again, paying attention to what the timer is. I'm going to go back into story mode and just go to Sonic 2 in Dark Story for this, because it's an identical fight, and the Dark Story scene starts there. On both fights, you gain control of the character at exactly like 6 seconds on the clock. So I'm just going to put my controller up to the cam, up to the microphone, and you can hear me tapping along at the seconds. And I get the jump at 6. So you can pretty much just tap along with the seconds ticking up, and you will jump at 6. And then just start the fight from there. No chaos control! Anyway, I don't need the game anymore. Don't be fucking questions, indeed. Oh, I'm noticing now as well that throughout this fight you're holding up on the control stick. I would really advise against using directional input here. Using directional input to get the fight started, like to land the first hit, is fine. But after you're in this sort of position where you're just chaining the hits, you do not need to use directional input, and it's actually more dangerous to use directional input. And the thing that tipped me off to that was when this happened. Once you're in this sort of position and you're holding up on the control stick, it's like the only reason you're at the side of Shadow here and aiming sideways to begin with is because you had the directional input. If you were just using neutral stick and just timing homing attacks, you would stay behind Shadow and there's no real chance for anything to go wrong here. So I really would advise not using directional input once you've got the homing attack chain started. If you need to stick to like get yourself back in position, like if something goes wrong, then obviously do that. But when you're just getting the hits, I would not advise using directional input. Especially because if the game determines that you've gone ahead of Shadow at any point, the camera will invert to keep him on screen. So then holding up on the control stick means you're going straight backwards. And if you get disoriented without like realizing it, or if you accidentally start going backwards, it could be too late by the time you realize and you've gone too far back to even recover. So just there's a lot of things that can go wrong from holding up, and it doesn't help in any way to actually facilitate the fight. So just don't use directional input. Like, you're just in an awful position here for getting the hits, and you almost died there. So yeah, just avoid that like the fucking plague. Don't use directional input in this fight once you've got the chain started. Come on, one more. Come on, Shadow. Be a bud. There we go. Yeah, that's the one.
Sub 30, let's go!
Sub 30, let's go!
Yes.
I agree. It is a nice milestone to hit, dude. Congratulations. Next target is sub 40 RTA, which you can easily do as long as you just don't reset Aquatic Mine after getting 3 pieces. So yeah, that was quite an enjoyable run, and I did get some chances to like talk about concepts that I haven't previously, so I definitely thank you a lot for asking me to do this. I will be highlighting this and exporting it to YouTube, I mean, if you don't mind, so that you can look at it and anyone else can learn from it as well. So that is probably going to be it for the stream. And yeah, so just once again, thank you, Vector, for submitting this. I hope you found this quite useful, educational. If there's anything in particular that you want to like ask about or don't really understand fully, then obviously just DM me on Discord. I'm fully available to just answer questions.